There's usually no difference in time zones. This time there turned out to be a 1-hour difference. Last night I went to bed at 2 a.m. because I arrived late in the evening. I woke up at 9 a.m. local time and immediately went to the sea. As a result, I arrived late. I didn't realize the time difference. I thought I had an extra hour. All right, let's move on to answering questions.
Today's topic is how to correctly distance yourself and discipline your close person. Is it necessary to tell a loved one about our intention to distance ourselves?
This topic is quite complex. As the song goes, in love, it doesn't matter if it's morning or evening, minutes or years. Love is the movement toward one another, and it will never stop. So it's essential to understand the purpose of distancing. It's always about love. The reason for distancing is that people often don't fully grasp their behavior. When someone becomes overly attached to another person, their behavior can become inappropriate. To restore balance in the relationship, it's necessary to regulate the level of closeness. People may think that distancing isn't necessary, but in reality, it's a critical step. That's why distancing is a very complex process. It must be rooted in love, not irritation, anger, resentment, or a desire for revenge. Often people confuse this, and as a result, I've been accused of advising a woman to distance herself, and then her husband left for good. This concept is confusing for many people. That's why we brought up this topic. Distancing should be based on love. If you're irritated or harbor resentment toward a loved one and behave aggressively, your distancing is simply a continuation of destroying the relationship. The term distancing primarily refers to creating space that's necessary to maintain healthy relationships. In such relationships, you continue to treat your loved one with love. Distancing can also happen in the workplace with the goal of improving relationships. Distancing is about moving closer or further apart. This is something people generally don't know how to do. Most people get closer and closer in relationships until there's a tantrum, and then they destroy the relationship. Distancing is not about destroying relationships. With distancing, you treat the person kindly and wish them happiness in your heart. But outwardly, you maintain a bit of distance, a bit more strictness. That's the nature of this action. However, what exactly are you trying to warn your loved one about? That's unclear. Are you going to tell them, I'm about to punish you, or I'm going to make you suffer? Distancing simply means showing fewer emotions in the relationship, smiling less, sharing less openly. There are different kinds of distancing. If you want to move back in with your mom, then you can inform them. But if you're just showing fewer emotions, what exactly are you planning to warn about? Are you going to approach the person and say, I'm distancing myself from you, I'll be showing fewer emotions, so don't be surprised. I'm going to discipline you now. Is that what you're planning to say? Are you going to warn them that you're angry and intend to make them suffer? Distance is something different. First you need to pray, center yourself, and only then start guiding or correcting your close person. In truth, distancing isn't even about discipline. It's simply an attempt to create the right amount of space to avoid destroying one another. Love cannot survive in a destructive environment. So if a relationship is deteriorating, step back a little. If it's improving, step a bit closer.
How do you determine the proportion of punishment to the wrongdoing?
That's a very complex question. We've discussed this at length before. The hardest situations in life occur when someone crosses the red lines Moses established. Do not betray, do not steal, do not slander. Whenever a loved one acts in such a way, it's always a difficult situation. The first thing to do is figure out what to do, because most people don't understand. They think, I have to bring them back, I need to pray for their return, I need to correct them. But that's entirely the wrong approach, one that ultimately breaks the person down. The right approach is to preserve yourself. Harsh fate crushes a person's self-respect, destroys their fortune, their strength, and their ability to live normally. It's the same as asking, what should you do during a war? Right now, there's a war in Ukraine. What should people do? They must understand what to do. That's when life gets a little easier. Preserving yourself means not panicking, not losing balance, not being scared, and not breaking down. You must try to remain calm, stay steady, composed, and strong. That's what it means to preserve yourself. When harsh fate comes, preserving yourself is the priority. That's the main task. You have to fight to remain balanced and composed. In such times, you might not be able to wish happiness to others or feel kind and loving toward everyone. But you should remember God. Harsh fate exhausts a person. It drains their energy. That's why you need to recharge like a baby nursing for comfort. You need to replenish yourself, remember God, and recharge. This is the kind of action you must take. Fill yourself with the energy of the Lord. This is called preserving yourself. It means more prayer, more listening to lectures, more spiritual practice, more healing practices, and more interaction with kind people. Focus on 3 areas to replenish yourself: inner strength and mood, social strength through relationships, and spiritual strength through connection with God. But how can you determine when to focus on preservation of yourself and keeping absolute distance? For instance, if someone has betrayed you, there should be no contact with them. Limit or avoid interaction entirely. If you must interact, keep it to a minimum and only when absolutely necessary. How can you tell if you've been betrayed? It's when there's a destructive force within your psyche that ruins you as a person whenever you interact with that individual. It's not the person themselves, but this destructive energy that hinders your ability to live fully. People typically act foolishly under the influence of harsh fate. Most people don't make such mistakes deliberately. They're driven by circumstances because fate is forcing them to do so. However, if there's no destructive force affecting you, then your approach should shift. That approach involves kindness, forgiveness, patience, care, and love. It also requires courage because love always demands bravery. You must always strive to believe in the goodness of your loved one. Always hold on to faith in the positive. That's key. As long as no red lines have been crossed, you should bravely believe in the inherent goodness of your close person. This applies not only to loved ones, but also to colleagues or anyone else you interact with. That's why we wish others happiness. That's why we strive to forgive, to endure, and to act with patience. This is incredibly important. It's crucial to understand that while you may ask me about external actions, I'm saying that everything must start from within. If a person hasn't set themselves up internally in a correct way, external actions won't matter. This is especially true for distancing. If your inner attitude isn't kind, if it isn't grounded in love, then no form of distancing will work. Even if distancing is inevitable, without the right inner attitude, it won't bring any positive outcomes. It's like playing on the edge of a foul in hockey. When you check someone, you need to do it within the rules. It's a fine balance, often called playing on the edge. Distancing in relationships is similar. It must be done correctly, and that's very challenging. The key is determining how far to go with it. The most important rule to remember is this: don't stress. Do you know the main rule for behaving in a sauna? Don't stress, stay calm. When you're in a sauna, if you worry too much, you'll either overheat or cool down too quickly. You need to proceed gently, carefully, and relaxed. If you're too hot, cool off. If you're too cold, warm up, but stay balanced and calm. The same rule applies here. In personal relationships, how do you choose the right distance? Choose a comfortable distance, the distance where you can maintain kind and respectful relationships with the person, sometimes closer, sometimes further. Distance doesn't mean slamming doors or running off to your mom's house. That's not what it's about. This is a kind distance that helps avoid arguments. But if someone resists this kind distance, if they're overly attached, pushing closer, then you need to introduce a little firmness, kindly asking them to keep some space. When you distance yourself, there's usually no problem. It's just a kind boundary. But the issue arises when a loved one disagrees with this. If they keep trying to get closer, then of course you'll need to explain. You'll need to reason with them. But the rule for choosing the right distance is simple. It should allow you to live comfortably. It should prevent people from losing their minds. It should keep everyone calm. That's the main point. The distance should be such that everything remains okay, peaceful, live peacefully. That's the kind of distance you need.
Dr. Torsunov, hello. You know, Natalie asked a question earlier, but you've already partially answered it. I'm not sure if I should read it out anyway.
Go ahead and read it. Skip the parts I've already addressed and just read the rest.
I'll read it in full then. Dear Dr. Torsunov, please accept my respectful greetings. How should I act correctly if I try to teach a loved one by distancing myself, speaking less, but then my husband gets upset and stops talking to me too? He says I chose to communicate this way, so I end up reaching out to avoid damaging our relationship. Perhaps I don't fully understand what it means to distance correctly.
Of course, he'll get upset. That's exactly what I'm saying. The issue isn't always with you. You distance yourself, but your loved one doesn't accept it. Naturally, their reactions can vary. This is where strategy comes into play. If you notice that you're feeling uneasy, then move closer. As I said before, don't stress. Aim to make things reasonably comfortable for everyone. But let me repeat, the more love there is, the more distance can be maintained. Why does a loved one get upset? Because you're distancing without love. If there's not enough love, then maybe you shouldn't distance yourself. You can still do it, of course, but understand that it may lead to damaging the relationship. Even if your loved one says, you chose this type of relationship, so this is how it will be, then fine, so be it. What's the problem? You can't stay close because it irritates you. You distance yourself and now they're irritated. Calm them down. Try to act kindly. I'll repeat again. If you lack kindness, no amount of distance will help. Distance causes irritation. You'll feel irritated too. What you need is kindness. That's the key. Let's do some math. Kindness plus distance equals comfort. This is the math of family relationships. For example, kindness equals 1, distance equals 1, you get comfort in total. If kindness is 0 and distance is 1, you get irritation. If kindness is 2 and distance is 1, it's excellent, you get comfort. If distance is 2 and kindness is 1, you get irritated. The more kindness you add for each unit of distance, the greater the comfort. So you just need to evaluate how much kindness you have. If you distance yourself with anger, they will naturally get upset. But if you distance yourself, smile at them occasionally, or write kind notes like, I'm sorry I'm talking less right now, but I'll keep writing you notes. Why is distance necessary? It's meant to help you avoid stress, not to torment someone. That's the key thing to understand. But people don't get it. They think distancing is meant to punish someone. The husband says, if you're tormenting me, I'll torment you back. All right, no problem. Let's torment each other. But you didn't plan to be tormented, right? You planned to do the tormenting, didn't you? And now things aren't going according to plan. That happens. But if you're kind, then distancing works just fine. Why create distance? Because the other person is behaving inappropriately, damaging the relationship. They're breaking you down as a person, so you distance yourself kindly, just a little. It's like two hedgehogs wanting to have a close relationship. When they approach each other with their faces, they can be very close, touching noses, sitting there together like that. But when they approach with their quills, they start poking each other. One says, you're poking me. The other says, no, you're poking me. Neither feels their own quills, only the other's. So when you approach with your quills, you need distance. When you approach with your faces, there's no need for distance. The most important thing is not to stress about it. Always aim to feel comfortable in the relationship. Distance is a kind approach to avoid hurting each other. It's not a malicious act. Some think that distance is a harsh act. That's a misunderstanding.
Thank you so much, Dr. Torsunov.
So what's the specific answer for this family? If he is upset, it means you lack kindness. Build your kindness. Pray and think about God. Try to gradually move towards a comfortable relationship. Right now it is not comfortable, is it? You can't create a comfortable relationship at this moment. Why? Because you lack kindness. Focus on that. The issue isn't distance, it's kindness. If you distance yourself without kindness, it won't work. He'll start feeling upset. But try to behave kindly while communicating less. For instance, helping him more, caring for him more, while speaking less. You wish him happiness in your heart, but talk less. Maybe send him text messages instead of having verbal conversations. Text messages help reduce emotional tension. That's what distance means. For example, you used to talk face to face, but now you communicate via WhatsApp with your husband. That's creating distance. It minimizes emotions, leaving only positive ones. There was a scene like this in a comedy sketch. A boy and girl sit silently on a park bench, just looking at each other and smiling. Then they get up, walk away, turn on their phones, and start chatting. They talk and talk, then sit back on the bench and go silent again. They couldn't talk directly to each other, but they could on their phones. That's what distance means. If you can't talk on the phone, then use WhatsApp to communicate. Send voice messages. If voice messages don't work, try video messages. And if video messages don't work, then stick to plain text. That's all. That's what distance is about. Different types of distance mean fewer emotions in communication and more calmness. Emotions are expressions of love or hatred. If a person is irritated, emotions can cut like a knife. So the word distance literally means reducing emotions in relationships. That's it. That's what distance is. If you can't communicate calmly face to face, then take a step back and record a message instead. If you can't record a message without being emotional, then write it down. Write letters if you're too emotional.
Thank you so much. Dr. Torsunov, you talk about taking care. But when you're upset with someone, you don't feel like taking care of them. Should you force yourself?
Why force yourself? Let them starve, right? Seek revenge. Everyone should take revenge. Don't force yourself at all. If someone's suffering and you're upset with them, you should retaliate. Hang their picture on the wall, grab some darts and aim for the nose. Hit the bullseye. But my dears, if you're irritated, that's the problem. You're angry and that's the truth. You say, I don't want to take care of them. I don't even want to see them. Deal with that first. Sit down before the Lord, complain to Him, even argue with Him. Listen to Him or the voice of a holy person. Argue with God if you must, but don't argue with the person. It won't do any good because you're angry, and they're not a source of energy. That's the biggest issue people face. They don't understand that people are not sources of energy. We're all energy-dependent beings. We rely on nature, kind people, and God. We're not energy sources ourselves. When we expect energy from a loved one, we get irritated because they can't give it to us. So refill your energy. When it's depleted, replenish it. That's the strategy. Why did I go to the sea in the morning? Because I wouldn't have been able to give you anything otherwise, you understand? I started 20 minutes later, but now I can give something. When I have nothing to give, there's no point in doing anything. So I went to the sea, not knowing I only had 1 hour left. Had I known, I would have woken up earlier, gotten less sleep, but that wouldn't have been ideal either. Instead, I got 7 full hours of sleep and went to the sea. I stood there replenishing all 5 energy layers, looking at the sun, and now I can give a lecture. Everything went according to plan. I distanced myself a bit, but now everyone is satisfied. But you don't replenish yourselves. You don't understand how to act correctly. A depleted person is no good. They're useless. Do you understand? There's no point in giving a lecture if I don't have the energy. Why did I sit in the butterfly pose? To be filled with energy. You should always give yourself fully. If you have no strength, why push yourself? Why force it? So if you're drained, irritated, why are you angry at someone? Why do you want revenge? It's because you want energy from them. You want them to say kind words to you. Why do we get angry at people? Do we want to destroy them? What's the reason? We get angry at loved ones. We try to hurt them. What's the reason? Do we want to destroy them? Are we villains? Are we evil people? No, the reason is that we want them to give us energy, to help us. They won't help us, that's 100% sure, because that's the nature of a living being. Do you know what the nature of the soul is? Some say that the soul is filled with eternity, knowledge, and happiness. No, it is not filled. The soul is like a mirror that reflects something. It can reflect matter, or it can reflect God, and that's why it's important for us to have relationships, communication. We must always be filled with something. Yesterday I gave a consultation to a young man. He works on a yacht surrounded by not very good people. These are of course different people, but mostly ignorant ones. And this environment, this atmosphere he's in, it's destroying him. He wanted to find another job, but according to his karma, he is currently in a period of harsh fate, so the other job would be even worse. He has a lot of free time on the yacht, so I advised him to do the following. Just surround himself with a different atmosphere, because your atmosphere depends on your attitude. If you set yourself to God, set yourself to good people, set yourself to spiritual practice, then you'll feel great on this yacht. You'll have a lot of free time for growth. You don't need to run away from there in this case. But if you set yourself to something bad, like focusing on the people around you, then you will simply destroy yourself. So you need to understand this principle. The soul is not filled. This also applies to our loved ones. They are not filled. Everyone is in need in this world. Everyone is in need. If you have nothing to give, then sit down and fill yourself up, or go and fill yourself up. Go to the sea, look at the sun, go out and run, go and bathe in an ice-cold river. In general, do something to restore yourself. By the way, I'm grateful to everyone on this trip, to everyone who helped me, to all of you. This was truly a very tough trip, very intense, and I got tired. And in Riga, there was a very strong reboot. We ran and then sat in an ice-cold river, a very powerful upgrade. Then I did the same upgrade in Tallinn. It was already a real winter there. We ran in the snow. The river hadn't frozen yet. The swimming area was well equipped, and I got into that river and stood there. A couple of people joined me, dipped in and jumped out, but I stayed. And I had enough strength even for Finland. In Finland, there were also great guys and girls, thanks to them. About 45 people came to the lecture, but everyone was happy. And if I hadn't filled myself up, I wouldn't have been able to give anything. This is the main principle. Why do you live with loved ones? You only give, only give. Don't try to take anything, just give. If you think that you need to take something, that's where the scandals begin. The attempts to make a loved one repent, to make them feel guilty, to seek revenge, to get angry, not to take care. This is a wrong understanding of living together. That means if you expect something from a loved one, there will always be scandals and problems. Distance means there is no possibility to transmit love. That means when you are close, you can't do something good for the person. Well, then stay further away and do something good from a distance, because from a distance there's always an opportunity to do something good. You can wish happiness, you can write something good, but being close doesn't always work. If there's tension between you, it means there's no energy of happiness, no love. You lack God. And you try to forcibly pull happiness out of each other. This is the problem, and that's why distance is needed. Imagine two pumps met, and each is only sucking from the other. This is the problem. And what can be sucked out of the other pump? Only dust, because it has nothing. It's drained. Therefore, don't try to create relationships where two exhausted people try to suck something from each other. Nothing good will come of this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Torsunov. Everything is clear now.
All right, moving on to next questions.
We've been answering questions for 45 minutes.
Really? Are you sure? How much later did I start the lecture?
40 minutes. We're 15 minutes late.
Really? Well, I can start the lecture.
There are many questions.
This material can also be delivered well through the questions. They really open up the topic.
Okay. For example, Natalie is asking, how do you know if you've distanced yourself or can't forgive? After dishonest actions, especially from relatives and loved ones, you can no longer interact as you did before. You keep your distance. It seems irreversible, and you don't want to close that distance. The trust that used to be is no longer there. In a close relationship, you don't want to communicate anymore. How do you know if you've distanced yourself or if you can't forgive?
Look, in the relationship between you, destructive actions have occurred. You want to fight back. That's how fate works. It always pits people against each other. When bad fate comes, what will it do? It will turn you against the other person. That means it will torment you. It will make you destroy each other. What should you do? You need to fill yourself up. You're asking me right now, there were destructive actions in our relationship. What should we do? You need to fill yourself up even though you may want to break off the relationship. That's the whole problem. So what should you do specifically? Well, if, for example, you completely lose control, then call your friends. Real friends will calm you down. What do real friends do? They say, calm down, everything's fine, you're doing well. Real friends act like that. And you calm down. And when you calm down, you no longer lash out at your loved ones. At that moment, you need to go out into nature and fill yourself with its energy. Go for a run, a walk, swimming. You need static exercises, trees, prayer. You need to fill yourself with nature, with prayer, spiritual practice, and good deeds. And in this way, you restore yourself. Like I did here, I came to Israel now and Roy met me. He has opened a charitable foundation here, and he helps people in need, mostly elderly people. And he inspired the whole supermarket, both the visitors and the staff. He inspired everyone to help elderly people. And everyone who comes to help later says, all inspired, it's so good, such happiness. People's relationships improve, life gets better, and they too are very inspired, all positive. This is called filling up. That's an activity that replenishes. That's why we created the Good People Club, so that there is such an active life position. These Good People Clubs are such a friendly team of volunteers. In the city where I live, the Good People Clubs are led by Tim, and he has a team that does good deeds. It's such a united group of like-minded people. These are the Good People Clubs, so you just need to gather for good deeds. And someone has to be the strongest, take an active life position. And when you have such a team, such an environment in which you can do good deeds very actively, then the question won't be what to do with relatives. Should I tear them apart today or tomorrow? You just need to go and do good deeds, fill yourself up, go out into nature, talk to friends when things are bad with relatives. This is what detachment is. Detachment means not torturing your loved one. This is called detachment, not torturing yourself or them. Fill yourself up, do something good. When you have strength, help your loved one. And when you want to help your loved one, you always need to understand there are two options. The first option, they are friendly towards you, then try to help them more closely. The second option, they are not in the right mood, and this can happen in various ways. For example, they might be too pushy, taking your energy, or acting proudly, irritably, or dishonestly. Then you help from a distance, letting them know that such a relationship doesn't suit you, but you behave kindly from a distance. Your heart remains in goodness. This is called detachment, and please don't confuse it with exhaustion. If you are exhausted, you've argued, you're both at fault, you're in exhaustion, or someone else, like your close relatives, for example. Remember, don't perceive aggression as something bad, as evil. Aggression is exhaustion. Wrong behavior of a loved one is always exhaustion. Take a child, for example. When your child cries, screams, do you think of this as aggression? If a person loves someone, they don't view bad behavior as aggression. Well, if the child cries, it means they're hungry, want to sleep, want to go outside, or want to be closer to their mother. That's it. And you take care of it. But if you're irritated with the child, then you're misinterpreting their behavior. In that case, you should try to fill yourself up. For a mother, it's not difficult to fill up. She just needs to look at her child. God acts through the child. When a small child is present somewhere, God fills everyone around them with happiness and love through them. This is how God protects the small child. He simply protects and fills with happiness and love everyone near the small child. In the same way, God protects pets. For example, a dog or a cat. They fill everyone with love, which is why they get food. A dog doesn't work, and neither does a cat. They get fed because they fill everyone with love. They cause affection, just like a child. So it turns out that God feeds a dog, a cat, or a child, because God gives happiness, and happiness also comes from the little child. Therefore, to fill yourself up through the child, a mother just needs to look at them. If they're squealing or crying, look at them with kind eyes, recognizing that this is your child. You'll feel lighter, and then you'll be able to calm them down further. But a loved one is different. For example, if they're squealing, crying, you can't look at them with kind eyes. And you need to find other sources of fulfillment. Little children, they themselves are the source of fulfillment. It's all simple. But with a loved one, such as a husband, wife, or friends, if there are conflicts, you need to find a source of fulfillment. From this perspective, we can say it's detachment. This is a form of detachment, not setting a distance in relationships, but simply trying to fill yourself up, not creating relationships where two vacuum cleaners turn on. Remember, these two vacuum cleaners suck dust from each other, pull out negative emotions, pull out dirt, anger, and then what? They suck it up into themselves. Who will suck more out of whom? Which vacuum cleaner is stronger? It's a completely useless activity. There's no benefit. All right, let's talk a bit more about the topic as planned. So why is detachment necessary? Detachment is a type of behavior in relationships designed to establish a comfortable distance between you so you do not destroy each other. That's the main purpose. Detachment is mainly meant for this. It's a comfortable distance where you won't destroy each other. You'll preserve yourself. It's very important to understand that in relationships, it's always important to preserve yourself, because if you enter a zone of high mental energy expenditure, it leads to rapid exhaustion and the destruction of the relationships. Because in relationships, it's important to give love. If people start acting emotionally, creating emotional, nervous relationships, then in these emotional, nervous relationships, a person's energy depletes very quickly, and you can no longer give love to the person. Your resources depletes very quickly, and you kind of lose strength, and you can no longer give love to the person. And if you can't give love to a person, then what's the point of this relationship? Close relationships are needed only for love. They are not needed for resolving conflicts or correcting someone. It's very important to understand that close relationships are for love. Some people think, I'm assigned to this person to correct them. First, correct yourself, then you can try to correct someone else. We often see the speck in someone else's eye, but fail to notice the beam in our own. We don't see our own big beam and try to correct everyone else. We are constantly trying to correct everyone. But close relationships are not for correcting, they are intended for love. Did you know that? They are meant for love. And so, if you try to correct a loved one, immediately at that moment they protest. They feel injustice because they entered these relationships for love. For them to be loved. For example, if a mother doesn't love her child, the child feels injustice, starts to act up, shake their legs, wave their arms, scream, and resist. That means a child entered these relationships for love. If the mother loves them, they agree. If the mother doesn't love them, they don't like it, they are upset. Because they entered the relationship for love, they have no other ideas. The same is true in marriage. The husband and wife entered the relationship for love. But I want to fix them. Why do I want to fix the person? Because I want to receive more love. If they change, I will get more love. But this position is not entirely correct. Let's say someone decides to treat you with ice cream. The person has 2 cups of ice cream. They decided to treat you with 1 cup, but you haven't even taken the cup in your hands yet, and you already want half of the second cup. You understand? And then the lesson begins. Why do you think our hunger is the same? Maybe I'm hungrier than you are. Let me have a half of your cup too. There was a funny sketch. A chubby boy stands eating a sandwich, and a skinny boy stands watching him. When the chubby boy finishes eating, the skinny boy says, "If I had a sandwich, I'd share it with everyone." And the chubby boy licked his lips, wiped his mouth, and said, "It's a shame you don't have one." Everyone has their own perception of what's happening. Why do we suffer? Because we want more love, but the person either can't give it, doesn't have it, or didn't plan to. Therefore, you need to count on what is available. A loved one gives you a certain amount of love. That's what you should count on. If you want more, the educational process begins. Then you just claim the second half of the ice cream. Maybe they don't have more love. How do you know? Maybe they gave their last bit, like when a husband comes home from work, barely smiles at his wife with his last strength. She says, "Why are you looking at me with angry eyes?" He doesn't even have the energy for that little smile he gave. He gave himself to God there and smiled as best as he could, and she started attacking him. So he gave her all the ice cream he had, and she says to him, "You've hidden some in your pocket, give it to me." And he, already upset, says, "I gave you all the ice cream, what are you talking about?" And a fight starts right away. Why do fights happen? Because we want more love than what we're given. Whatever was given is enough, that's it. So learn to be self-sufficient. Whatever love you were given, that's what you deserve. You're not meant to get more according to your fate. Want more? Fine. Then care for your loved one, help them, and evoke gratitude in their heart. Because it's very important to understand how to increase love. Let's say you have karma. You see your loved one, your beautiful wife, and she has a certain amount of love. That's what's embedded in her. And you count on all of it thinking, "I want to get all her love for myself." But according to your karma, you're only meant to get half because fate is at work and it won't let her give it all. Fate will stand in between you two. Even if she wants to give it to you, she won't be able to. Sometimes a person's energy of eternity is blocked in their consciousness in relationships. And it turns out that the loved one simply can't transmit the energy of love. They want to, but they can't because it doesn't reach you. There's a blockage in the relationship. And people are sure that they're not receiving enough, but the person is trying. They're trying their best. They want to give more, but it doesn't reach you. That's how the blockage works. And then, when they talk to others, you see that the love does reach them, and you think, they're giving more love to others than to me. And frustration arises right away. This is my loved one. How could they do this? We agreed that we love each other. That's how fate works. It deceives, it leads people into a harsh illusion. And this is a huge problem. And that's why the rule is, be content with what you've been given. And to be content with what you've been given, you must always know how to switch your focus. The main problem in people's lives is their emptiness. People always suffer from everything because they don't look for happiness in the right places. You must learn to receive happiness from nature, from good friends, and from God. A spouse cannot be a good friend because karma acts through them. What is a good friend? A good friend is someone through whom bad karma doesn't act. They are given to you by God as a mercy. You've done good deeds, helped everyone, and you got a friend. That's why I say you need to do good deeds. God will give you a good friend. Why does He give a friend to you? So that you can fill yourself up. God understands that you are dependent, that you are a mirror, and that you will reflect. What you have inside, that is what you will give out. There's nothing more. A mirror doesn't have its own sunlight, do you understand? If you put a mirror in the dark, you won't even see it. It doesn't represent anything. We are all mirrors. We can reflect sunlight if we have it, if we are given it. That's how a person is created. That's why God gives people good friends. Why does He give them? So we can fill ourselves and give to others. And if you don't have good friends, what will you give? You have no energy. You will argue with your loved ones, get angry with them. If you have the energy of nature, you will be in a good mood. If you have the energy of good friends, you will communicate well with everyone. If you have the energy of God, you will inspire everyone, bring happiness to everyone, and give them strength to overcome fate. If you have no energy, fill yourself up. Once you're filled, give. Don't expect anything from anyone. That means if they give, take it. If they don't give, don't take it. That's the tactic. It's very important to understand this, but we want a different tactic. We want more. This is where the huge problem lies. When we start wanting more than we're meant to have, that's when problems begin. So how can we determine when there will be harmony in relationships with loved ones? They came to punish me. So now what? Will they punish me all the time for a lifetime? A loved one came by karma. Do you know what karma means? Karma means punishment. A loved one came by karma and you have to wait. You take care of them. If you have strength, give them something. If you have no strength, fill yourself up. Detachment means you fill yourself up. And detachment means you understand that a closer relationship will lead to mutual destruction. That means detachment is simply filling yourself up and maintaining emotional distance. Why are you lurking like an angry little animal ready to bite? No, detachment means emotional distance. If you get closer, it will get worse, and there will be irritation. Fill yourself up. Once you're filled, give. Everyone wants reciprocity. Want reciprocity? Wait, reciprocity will come when karma ends. How can you tell when karma is over? Gratitude will appear. The loved one will be grateful in their heart for what you're doing. How can you tell when karma is over? For example, you're feeding a loved one and they're eating. Will they be grateful when they eat? Mostly no. But if they have knowledge, they will be grateful and praise you, but that doesn't mean they are truly grateful. It means they just know that they should always thank the one who feeds them from the beginning to the end. But when the person is full, sitting back, then they will truly be grateful, both in their demeanor and words. They are full, everything is good for them. This means that good fate has arrived for you. We always consume each other. The loved one will consume you. If a girl is with a guy, he's constantly taking something from her, enjoying her presence. When he's full, he will give happiness. This is gratitude. Gratitude is when a person feels they are satisfied and their loved one is satisfied. Then gratitude starts to radiate from them. Sometimes people are satisfied but ungrateful. That means the bad karma hasn't ended yet. This behavior is called shamelessness. For example, the husband is full and the wife says, "Why aren't you thanking me?" He replies, "What do I need to thank for? It's all my karma. I went to an astrologer and they told me that I'm destined to be well fed. So what difference does it make who feeds me well, you or someone else? I will always be well fed because it's my karma." So such energy emanates from a person who has become shameless. In this case, of course, you need to slightly detach and discipline the person. But why is the person behaving badly? Why have they become shameless? Why aren't they thanking you? You did everything for them. You fed them, and they don't thank you. Because it's your karma. You didn't thank someone in a past life. Now they don't thank you, and you have to accept that. You see that they're not grateful. Look for happiness in something else. You take care of your loved one, you've spent your energy, and it's really hurtful. Where is the gratitude at all? Money was paid. Where are the services? You see, with a loved one, it's not like in a supermarket. You go to a supermarket, and if they give you a defective product, you can later get upset, stamp your feet, and file a complaint. There is no question of not being given anything at the supermarket at all. You go to a supermarket, they must give you something. You pay money, you must get the service. And if they give you a defective product, they've deceived you, then you can stamp your feet and take them to court. There they'll replace it for you, and everyone will fuss around trying to please you. But when you go to a loved one, how is this different from the supermarket? It's different in that you can, metaphorically, pay money, meaning cook, feed your loved one, and in response, silence. Do you understand? That means they might not thank you, they might not bring you happiness in return. This is called bad karma. Why are they behaving like this? From the perspective of their behavior, of course, they're doing everything wrong, but think about your own life. Think about why all this happened to you. Because you did the same thing before. This is very hard to understand, but you must always strive for it. And this is a very, very difficult and serious path. There's always a sense of injustice that immediately arises, a desire to take revenge, to punish the loved one. But this won't help you because in close relationships, the loved one is the executioner. They act as the executioner. Imagine you tell the executioner, "When you're chopping off my head, please smile, it'll make me feel better." He may smile, he may not smile, that's his business, because he's punishing you. And there's nothing you can do about it. But when the loved one stops being the executioner, then you can start enjoying life. So how do you determine this? When the bad karma has ended, the loved one will respond to your service, to your care, with appropriate reciprocity. It will definitely come, it will definitely come. This is a sign that your bad karma has ended. and you can start building a closer relationship with your loved one, because the exchange begins. You will receive as much gratitude as you invest in the loved one. This means that the bad karma has ended, but it doesn't mean it's ended forever. It may start again after some time. Throughout our lives, we have these cycles. A loved one is good today, and tomorrow a new cycle begins through them. You didn't even suspect such cycles existed. There are all kinds of cycles. For example, your husband used to torment you with his character, and now he's become grateful. 2 weeks pass, and a new cycle begins. He gets sick and has diarrhea, cramps, death is threatening. Now you need to take care of him running around, and he's lying there deeply sick, and this too is a new cycle in your fate. Again, fate comes, and you suffer. That's why it's very important to understand this principle in life, that loved ones bring fate to us, and what kind of fate they bring, we don't know. Today it's good, tomorrow it's bad, and we must always react bravely to these challenges. We always want reciprocity from loved ones, but you need to wait a little bit. When you reach heaven, there will always be reciprocity from loved ones there. This, by the way, is also dangerous because after 300 years of reciprocity, you fall back to earth and such disappointments start. Here many suffer greatly after paradise. This is the post-paradise syndrome, that unrequited love. You spent 300 years in paradise building a happy relationship with someone, then you come to earth and see a similar person. We always confuse them. I once approached a person. "Oh, Sam, hello." He says, "I don't know you." It turned out to be a very similar person. I often confuse people. I forget everyone. Sometimes in an airport I run up and say, "I wish everyone happiness." He looks at me. "Who are you?" It's the same here. You came from paradise and got confused. You love them, but they don't give you the proper attention and care in return. So what do you do then? You have to accept fate. Always take everything with optimism. Optimism comes from filling yourself up. We try to be mutual and happy in relationships, but it doesn't work. Look for happiness in relationships with a person who knows where to find happiness. What is the difference between a real bear and the rest? The real one knows where the honey is. That's why it's a real bear, you understand? A professional bear knows where the honey is and doesn't worry. It always goes to where the honey is, climbs there, knowing that the bees will sting a bit. It has a lot of fur, and only the nose needs to be protected, so it always protects the nose with the paw. Bears always protect their nose with their paw when climbing into the beehive, and with the fur, there's no problem. The bees can't sting through it, they won't be able to get to the fur. There's too much fur, but the nose needs to be protected. But the bees can sting the nose. That's why the nose needs to be protected with the paw when climbing into the beehive. To gather honey, that's why a person in pure goodness knows where the honey is. Where is the honey? It's where nature, good friends, and God are. That's where the honey is. That's where you need to go. Don't go to your husband or wife. If you feel happiness isn't coming, stay away. That's what distance is. If gratitude has appeared, then you can build a better, close relationship. I'm telling you, there comes a time when the bad karma in relationships ends. Well, I don't know. Maybe you'll be too old by then. That depends on how quickly you'll manage to overcome your bad karma. But a time will come, and people will start communicating with each other well and happily. You understand? Happy times in relationships will definitely come. They will definitely come. You just have to wait for it. But if people behave right, they don't expect anything from each other. If there's happiness, that's great. If not, you look for it elsewhere. Look for happiness where it exists. And real bears always look for happiness where it exists. And where is it? In nature, in good deeds, and in God. That's why people in a pure goodness should always be ready to look for happiness where it exists. If a person tries to look where it doesn't exist, going to a loved one who can't give them anything right now, then of course there will be problems. Of course, that's when conflicts start, when two vacuum cleaners meet, trying to suck dust out of each other, suffering, tormenting each other. They try to suck more out, but it only results in more dust and even more problems, because both people are drained. Distance is needed in order to fill yourself up, not to suck dust from a drained person. Nothing good will come of that, definitely. So, try to keep an eye on yourself in relationships. Don't try to take something extra, something unnecessary. You see, gratitude means that you have something to fill yourself with. If you can touch the sky with the tip of your soul, if you feel every blade of grass, then you can live happily. But when you go to places where there is no energy and you're not meant to receive anything, that's when problems start. You begin to vacuum your loved one, trying to suck something good out of them, but all that comes out is dust. Because they're as exhausted as you are, That's why you just need to find a good source of energy. A person in goodness is one who finds the right source of energy. Fill yourself up, then give. It's also important to understand, can you give or can't you? What is distance? You have nothing. You're exhausted. Go fill yourself up. Today I created some distance, went to the sea, even though I was supposed to give a lecture. The lecture about distance was supposed to happen today, and it started with distance. I had to start the lecture, but I wasn't there yet. Everyone is studying what distance is. I didn't want to behave badly like this. It just happened that way. I arrived. I flew almost 5 hours from Helsinki to Israel. I arrived at 11 p.m. By the time I got home, took a bath, it was already 2 a.m. I didn't even realize that there's a time difference here. I thought there was no time difference from Moscow. Usually there's no difference. It probably depends on the season. I thought the time was the same as in Moscow without any doubts. It turned out it wasn't. So now I have to adjust everything here. I have consultations scheduled, and they are incorrectly planned, so I'll have to redo everything. So sometimes things aren't as we want them to be, and you have to switch at the right time. If you expected happiness somewhere and didn't get it, and you didn't switch, then you end up in stress. And of course, we can't always navigate the situation properly. Sometimes a person starts to get nervous and angry. If we get angry at a loved one or anyone else, it always means we're wrong. If you're angry, you're always wrong. Don't think that if you're angry, you can be right, because kindness is the mother of truth. If you lack kindness, it means you're misunderstanding something, because real truth is born only from kindness. And if you lack kindness, it means you also don't have the full truth. But you have to understand that if you behave strictly, take a firm position, it doesn't mean you're angry. People often think that if someone doesn't talk to you, looks past you, it means they're angry with you. No. It might just be a way of relating when betrayal happens. By the way, you should always oppose betrayal with firmness. You can stop talking to a person, even ignore them sometimes, and that's okay. It means you're opposing betrayal. But no matter what, you have to always understand that if you're thinking about bad things, if you're in a bad mood, it always means only one thing. You're wrong, and distance doesn't mean being angry or wrong. Inside, there must always be kindness. And inner kindness means you have bright thoughts. Think of good things, and everything will pass. You must always look inside, look within. What do you specifically want? Do you want to tear everyone apart? That's wrong. Do you want to discipline someone? That's right. Do you want to help? That's right. From whom can we detach? We can only detach from those to whom we've given a lot of kindness. One woman wrote that she and her husband were listening to the lectures. She went to her mother's for 2 weeks, detached herself. Her husband wrote to her and said, "Listen, you can detach for another 2 weeks. I'm so relaxed without you." She exhausted him mentally and then went to detach herself at her mother's. Who can detach? Only those who have a reserve of kindness. If you've done a lot of good for a loved one and bad karma comes through them, they're ungrateful, then detach yourself. What does detachment mean? Don't exchange emotions with them. Don't smile at them. Don't say kind words. Don't rejoice when you meet them. Just live quietly next to them. Or maybe a little away. It all depends on the type of relationships. The main principle is not to stress in relationships. No one forces you to suffer, to torment, to get angry. There's no need for that. There is a need to always preserve yourself in life. If a person doesn't preserve themselves, they won't be able to be happy. They won't be able to love, care, or enjoy life. Therefore, it is very important to create distance just enough to preserve your own well-being. But why do you have the right to distance yourself in the first place? Because you're approaching the situation with kindness. If your kindness is a 2 and your distance is a 1, that's a comfortable situation. If your kindness is a 1 and your distance is a 1, that's also okay. But if your kindness is a 0 or 1 and your distance is a 2, then that's not right. In other words, a person has the right to distance themselves when they've done many good things for someone, has treated them well overall, and has helped them in life. That's when you have the right to step back. When you haven't done anything good for them, you need to be more cautious with your distance. There are different levels of distancing, but you should always maintain a comfortable distance. Sometimes a person may distance themselves a little more than what's comfortable. This is done with the only reason to discipline a loved one. You have the right to guide, to discipline your loved ones. But remember, close people are meant for love. They are there for love, but we still have the right to guide them. When do you have the right to do so? When you serve and care for your loved ones, but they don't show gratitude. That's when bad karma comes into play, and it depletes you. You start feeling bad. At some point, You realize you've reached your limit. You can see when things have gone too far because people don't cross the red line all at once. At first, you allow little injustices to happen to you, but then they start making bigger ones. So, when you see a small injustice, that's when you need to respond. For example, you prepare food for your husband, feed him, and he never thanks you. Well, that's when you need to start communicating less. At some point, your husband comes to the table, everything is set, but you're not there. You've set the table and left. That's what we call distancing. If you don't want to be grateful, then serve yourself. Self-service. This is what we call a more serious form of distancing, which we refer to as setting a boundary. I have a friend who has been stringing along his girlfriend for a while. He kept leading her on. He wouldn't marry her but kept communicating with her. She said to him, "We're not talking for 4 months." And for 4 months she didn't call him. Then he decided to visit her. She said, "We'll only talk when other people are around. I won't talk to you if we are alone." What does this mean? It doesn't mean she doesn't love him. It means she's showing him that she can't keep waiting around like this anymore. He needs to make a decision. All guys know that women are very straightforward. They always want to get married, and they don't have any other reasons to be in a relationship with a man. If he's just dragging things on and not making any real decisions, she waits for him to propose. How long can she keep waiting around like this? She waited, and waited. Then the distance grew. Why the distance? Because she hoped he was a real man, but he turned out not to be. Instead, he was full of nonsense. So, she decided to use her mystical powers, hopped on her broom, flew away from him, and on the way, spat on his bald spot. Sometimes it's necessary to apply the wicked witch abilities in relationships. A wicked witch is someone with mystical powers. Also, a witch is actually a Vedic mother. Sometimes you need to become a wicked witch, spit on his bald spot, and send him to the devil. Show off your mystical abilities, your superpowers. At that moment, when you've spat on his bald spot, you need to think about God, manifest your connection with God, and build relationships with God, not with some man. And show him your feminine strength. If you don't want to marry, then no love for you. Shut off the happiness faucet. Showing your feminine strength is the right way to go. You need to put someone in their place if they're taking from the gifts of nature but not taking care of nature. If you want to feel love, then get married, take responsibility, treat the matter seriously. Something like that. Distancing can be completely different, and a conscious life means, first of all, that I am fulfilled. That's the most important thing, to understand 2 things that a person should always monitor and cultivate in themselves. The first thing is, I am fulfilled. The second is, I am kind. This means taking care of people, mentally wishing them well, understanding that they are all God's creations, they are all good, and they don't wish you any harm. If they do wish something bad, it means they lack energy. A dog only bites when it has a dog's life, meaning they are living a dog's life. You need to relate to this with compassion. 2 things to always clearly be aware of in yourself. I am fulfilled, and that means I am useful to people. That's why it's so important to perform healing practices, do good deeds, and pray to God. This is the foundation of life. If you don't do this, you won't help anyone, you won't bring anything good. You're just a vacuum cleaner that sucks up all the dust. Or, in the worst case, a stronger vacuum cleaner will appear on your horizon, and even though you're sucking, it will suck everything out of you. In the end, nothing good will come of it for either of you, because the person is not fulfilled. You can always be filled only by God. Remember, we are mirrors. If we reflect God, then we always bring happiness to everyone. And if we reflect another person, they themselves are a reflector. A mirror from a mirror results in nothing. So don't try to get happiness from a person. Give them happiness until gratitude comes. You might say, why even interact with people? Let's just communicate with God. That's what many monks do. They go to monasteries and pray to God. They mostly communicate with God, and they feel happiness from relationships with other monks because everyone there is fulfilled. Everyone is in a state of fulfillment. But, by the way, not always nowadays, because often spiritual people don't understand that they need to be filled not just by friends, but also by nature. When people don't fill themselves with these other sources, they also become shriveled up, unhappy, even despite their spiritual strength. I've seen many examples of sick people who are spiritually strong. Just recently I received a message about a person who is spiritually strong, but somehow mistreated his body. Now he is in the ICU on artificial respiration, and he caused distress to everyone because he stopped eating, stopped interacting with people. And he ended up in this severe situation. Now we need to pray for his life. So even spiritual people, if they don't live in balance, if they don't absorb all three of these energies, then there won't be happiness in relationships with them. Therefore, always fill yourself up, be filled at all times, and try to be kind. Because if you treat people harshly, then of course that's not right. And all the distances you create are just a form of hostile behavior, that's all. There is no kindness in your heart towards the person. When you create distance, it's a form of hostility. No one will benefit from this, and there will be no educational value, because true education means kindness inside and strictness outside. That's what distance is. In everyday life, in relationships, a person always expresses kindness on the outside and strictness inside. You should always be kind towards others and maintain strictness inside. When a relationship goes wrong, then love no longer flows through them. When love is flowing through the relationship, gratitude exists. Love flows. Strictness inside means always be ready to distance. Always be ready to step back, never completely relax in a relationship, always be ready. Strictness inside, kindness outside. As soon as love and reciprocity stop flowing in the relationship, immediately show strictness outside, but stay kind inside. But if there is no kindness anywhere, then go pray, fill yourself up. There's no point in building a relationship when you have no inner fullness and no kindness. Kindness is God's energy. Fulfillment is also God's energy. So there are two types of God's energy. One is the energy of nature, and the other is the energy of kind people, which brings fulfillment. The energy that comes from the temple, the energy that comes from sacred scriptures, from holy people, that energy brings kindness. Kindness is the consciousness of God, not your own consciousness, but God's consciousness. For example, when cruel fate strikes, like during a war, what is kindness? If a person lives in Ukraine, for them, kindness means preserving themselves. Simply maintaining peace in their heart, holding on to goodness. That's what it means to preserve oneself. Not breaking, not losing oneself, not falling into despair, but preserving oneself. For the rest of the people on earth who do not live in Ukraine, kindness means to wish happiness. To care in the heart for those who are in distress, never consider them enemies. There are political conflicts between countries. Very intense political confrontations occur. Sometimes it happens that countries bring destruction to each other. This is how time works. Sometimes neighboring countries bring destruction to each other, and even non-neighboring ones. When each country defends its own interests, even wars can break out. But people always remain people who need love and kindness, and to consider ordinary people as enemies is utter madness. It is a wrong view of life. It is astonishing how one should relate to wars and conflicts. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a verse where the Holy Queen Kunti addresses the Lord directly. She sees him, and he stands before her. She says to him, "O my Lord, you hold no attachment or animosity towards anyone. You treat all living beings with love and kindness equally." Conflicts arise between people on the basis of social relationships. Social relationships are also influenced by fate. Sometimes a cruel fate rises between countries, and it destroys relationships and people. At such times, ordinary people should remain kind to one another. They should not harbor hatred toward ordinary people. Those who are fighting might kill each other based on their social relationships, but ordinary people must love, especially those who are in distress. Sometimes war takes place on some country's territory. Then people's homes are destroyed, their lives are shattered, their work and relationships within the family are torn apart. I know many examples where people want to be together but can't. War destroys families. My mother was born to my grandfather in his second marriage because his first marriage was destroyed by the war. He went to visit relatives and the war caught up with him there. It happened when he was at the relative's place. Literally just a few days later, the Nazis came to that town where he was. He didn't expect it to happen so quickly, and no one expected it. They barged into the house, found out that there were Jews there, and started shooting everyone. He managed to escape and run away. This was also in Ukraine, in the Venetia region. He ran away. He hid in an icy lake, sat there, and he survived. He became blind on one eye and deaf in one ear. Then other troops came, and he was able to escape. The front line stopped at his village, and he managed to run away and get to a hospital. That's how he survived. He ended up separated from his wife, who lived in Vinica, and their 2 children. She hid for 3 years to escape retribution, suffering greatly, feeling the injustice. She didn't know anything about him. Back then, there were no mobile phones. and letters couldn't cross the front line. People in those times simply didn't know what was happening with their loved ones. When she found out, when news reached her that he was alive but had made no attempts to protect her and the children, she couldn't live with him anymore. She just couldn't accept such a fate. When the war turned in the other direction in 1943 and he came back, she couldn't forgive him. He returned, but their relationship couldn't be restored. That's how war works. It destroys everything. It destroys people's fates, destroys relationships, destroys lives. And of course, love in this situation means taking care of the people who have suffered. For example, how could this apply in ordinary life? Well, let's say the wife brutally left her husband because that's how fate works. She found someone else, took the children, and left him. In this case, the children should not be considered enemies. Well, it's clear that the wife committed a sinful act, and you simply pray to God, trying to save yourself first. When harsh fate is at play, you don't think about your relationship with the person who abandoned you. You just pray, try to recover, and try to save yourself. Because harsh fate shatters your psyche. You can't accept this action. You feel bad. Your life is falling apart. You pray, try to get yourself together, recover, and somehow organize your life differently. Then when you regain your strength, you need to treat your ex-wife kindly in your heart. On the outside, take a firm stance, a strong, unwavering position, and never agree with this action. Never in your life agree with the destruction of the family. And the children should be loved. The children are not to blame. They haven't done anything wrong. The action is not committed by them. That's why it's important to show love, care, and in difficult times try to be closer to each other. I am currently traveling in Europe even more than in Russia. This is a conscious action. What is the reason? I want to be closer to the people with whom fate is tearing me apart. Fate is separating me, just like it is for all the people who are in Russia. It separates me from Ukrainians, Europeans, and Americans. Fate destroys, it makes you angry, hate, think badly. But I, on the contrary, go where the opposite energy is at play. And I establish relationships of love, happiness, and kindness, and they do the same. I came this time to Riga, Vilnius, and Tallinn. And people are drawn to me even more. They are even happier, love more, and the relationships are better, and they become kinder. When fate separates true friends who have established real relationships, they, on the contrary, are drawn to each other even more. They strengthen their relationships. That's how we should live. So distance can be different. There can be distance because we don't have the strength to build a relationship. We are filling up. We didn't argue. We didn't get angry. No one behaved badly. No one became arrogant. It's just that there is no strength because that's how fate works. Sometimes people become depleted. They step back, communicate less, so as not to hurt each other. The second type of distance occurs when a close person gets a little too impudent. Or not necessarily impudent, but sometimes they just misunderstand something. For example, a man speaks harshly to a woman. Well, he doesn't understand. Men don't even speak harshly, but they just try to explain things in a wrong way. For instance, when you explain something to a woman, it should be explained gently in this case, then she will understand. But sometimes a man doesn't speak gently. Instead, he tries to explain it in a serious manner, trying to be strict when explaining something to a woman. In that case, it just annoys her. She doesn't want to talk to him in that tone. And she distances herself. This means strictness on the outside, but kindness on the inside, that's it. She essentially changes the polarity of her perception. So she steps away from him, but inside she is kind. Sometimes a woman doesn't know how to behave with a man. For example, if a woman behaves very emotionally with a man, it doesn't lead to anything good. With men, you have to behave in a restrained manner. But if you want to talk about something, don't let your emotions take over. A woman can explain everything emotionally. This is how it is, this is what happened, if you didn't know about this. You see, and the woman will perceive it normally. But when a man hears this, he tenses up. It's hard for him to listen to all of that because his emotional energy is very sensitive. A man simply can't handle women's emotions. That's why a woman should explain things to him calmly, talk to him calmly, in a more measured manner. But if she doesn't speak calmly, then distance is needed because she doesn't understand and she is destroying the relationship. And we've already decided that in relationships, love is about not stressing. It's important to always have comfort in the relationship. If there is no comfort, then there should be distance. Don't throw yourself into the fire. In relationships, that won't help. You'll just burn out, and the relationship will only get worse. People turn themselves inside out for each other, then part ways because they don't understand that love is about a light, easy relationship style. If there is no comfort, there should be distance. Why can't you keep your distance? Because you're living the wrong lifestyle. You don't understand that you should always draw energy from nature, good people, and God, and always give it to your loved ones. You need to give energy to your children. You need to give energy to your husband, your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, everyone. Giving energy is the right way of life. If a person doesn't understand this, if they live the wrong way, then nothing good will come from it. There will only be problems. So always give to your loved ones and take energy from where it's meant to be taken. That's the relationship style you should maintain. Change the vector and get energy from where you should. Loved ones also give us energy. They serve us. They give what they can, and you should be grateful for that. If you feel you're lacking, look elsewhere. That's how you build healthy relationships with your loved ones. You should increase the exchange through gratitude. The more gratitude, the more you'll want to serve your loved ones. Eventually, relationships reach the point where the exchange is enough, but harsh fate can always close the tap in relationships with loved ones. In relationships with nature, the tap will never close. Nature is always around you and you can always draw from it. And if not, then go and seek it. It's necessary. If there are kind people, friends, you will always be filled. If you don't have friends, do good deeds for others. Because it's impossible to live without good friends. A person must have good friends. They must have spiritual relationships with people. Otherwise, they fall into a social vacuum. A social vacuum is when you have no opportunity to work, no opportunity to live a family life, no connection with your country, with your superiors, with your subordinates. This means your social energy has run out, and it can only be replenished by good people and good relationships. For example, we are conducting webinars now. These are good relationships, relationships of love and friendship. Then we will do a prayer retreat. Those will be the same kind of relationships. This is necessary. And now, of course, everything is moving online. On one hand, it's not ideal. We long for close relationships. On the other hand, look at the possibilities we have. We can communicate. People couldn't communicate like this before. They couldn't build relationships across the planet, but now we can. So there are certainly benefits to all of this. What is punishment in terms of relationships? What is punishment? If a person doesn't betray, there should be no punishment. Betrayal can be small or large. Even a small betrayal requires punishment. For example, if a husband starts having overly close relationships with another woman, not intimate, but just getting too friendly, acting all sweet with her, smiling and chatting, then punishment must be applied. Punishment means a strict attitude, speaking less, maybe even staying with your mom or something else. It depends on how far the person has gone. It's best to apply strictness and punishment sooner rather than later. You understand? Because, for example, if a loved one crosses a line and you don't punish them early on, it'll only get worse later. This applies to both children and adults. There's a saying, if you spare the rod, you'll lose the child. Why shouldn't a stepfather or stepmother punish a child? For example, if a man comes into a family where a woman already has children, he has no right to punish them. Why? Because he must first show so much kindness to them. They need to feel gratitude and trust him as the elder, and only then can he start to discipline them slowly. But if you punish them before giving them kindness, it's absolutely unacceptable. It's dishonest and wrong to treat the child this way, and this approach will lead to the destruction of the whole family, not only with the children but also with the wife. Therefore, a stepfather or stepmother has no right to punish. They only have the right to be friends, love, care, and invest their energy. When a person invests their energy in their children, they are very grateful and attached. What's the difference between your own and other children? In fact, there are no other children, but there are close children, those born of you, and non-close children, those not born by you. What's the difference? The difference is that close children are those who received love and care from the moment they were in the womb. They were taken care of even before they were born. So they are grateful from the very beginning. They are attached to their parents. They love them, they believe in them. This is something given naturally. When you take a child for upbringing, you didn't give birth to them, so nothing is given by nature. So you need to prove to this child that you have the right to raise them. First, you need to prove it to them, and the only way to prove it is through love. If you take care of them, love them, don't behave badly toward them, then when the child becomes grateful, they accept you as a parent and begin to trust you. Because children initially feel like little wolves in a family. At first, they're a bit cautious, they're wary at first, but then, when the child opens up, they feel that their parents are their protection. Once they feel that their parents are their protection, that's when you can start to discipline them slowly. It's the same in family life. For example, when young people begin living together, at first there should be more care, more love, fewer arguments and conflicts. At first the person must believe that you are close, then discipline begins, but betrayal is an exception. It is absolutely unacceptable. For example, if a young man betrays you before the family is created, let's say a woman is dating him and finds out he is also dating another woman, then you should just walk away, no questions asked. You should say goodbye and leave. No need for any more conversation. In other words, you must end the relationship immediately without discussion. But if this is your husband and there are some elements of incorrect behavior, this is very important. Culture must be correct. But all cultures have their pros and cons. For example, I went to Finland. Girls tried to hug me. But they asked, "Can we hug you?" I said, "No, my wife doesn't allow it." That's it, no questions. Why? Because that's the right culture. Because when you allow that, it's called betrayal. By the way, my wife doesn't distance herself. She trusts me a lot. But if, let's say, I'm standing in a photo hugging someone, she will immediately make me regret it. She'll deal with it right away if I do something wrong. I humbly accept that. I tolerate it. So distancing should happen when the relationship is not very deep. But if it's a deep relationship, you can deal with the consequences calmly. If your loved one accepts it, agrees kindly, it's all good, and there are no issues at all. I'll even apologize later. If she scolds me, I'll apologize again. That's a healthy, well-developed relationship. But if they're not developed, then of course you have to punish them in a way that the person accepts it. But if they won't listen to your words directly, then distance is needed. Don't talk. The opportunity to speak directly to someone is still available. That's always an option, but not for everyone, because you have to understand that close relationships aren't always really close. If you have an intimate life together and you're married in a registry office, that doesn't mean you have a close relationship. Close relationships slowly unfold. First, you need to earn respect in the relationship, so you love the divine feminine nature. You loved her because God gave you the opportunity to do so. When a person loves, it's just something God reveals to them. God revealed the divine nature of a woman to you, and you loved her. God revealed the divine nature of a man to the woman, and she loved him. All is well. If love is mutual, you can be together and get married. It means God allows it. Fine, you got married. That doesn't mean you now know this divine nature. That doesn't mean you know how to behave with it. If a young man starts behaving correctly with the divine feminine nature, that's called respect. If a woman behaves correctly with the divine masculine nature, that's called respect. When respect appears in a relationship, then after a certain amount of respect, the fruit of it appears, and that fruit is called loyalty. After some time, when people treat each other with respect, they begin to become loyal to one another. Loyalty means that you can open your heart. Before this point, you cannot open your heart. Doing so will lead to the destruction of the relationship. But after loyalty, when loyalty exists, people feel they won't abandon each other. They realize that living together is not in vain. At this point, you can speak honestly, kindly. Again, honesty. If you speak with anger, that's not honesty. It's a lie. If you want to tell the truth to someone, but it contains evil, then there's no truth in it. The truth is always kind. Kindness is the mother of truthfulness. If you want to tell the truth, first pray, breathe deeply, fill yourself with energy, and then speak kindly. No matter how heavy the truth is, it should always be delivered kindly. Say everything kindly. And if the person accepts it, then between you there is loyalty. Then you can speak openly. If the relationship is sincere, then love moves to the next stage of development. First respect, then loyalty, then sincerity in the relationship. These are sincere relationships. These are relationships approaching a spiritual platform. For you to know in the spiritual reality, when someone is arguing with someone, they are actually experiencing love. It's like the saying, lovers quarrel just for fun. Remember, in the spiritual reality, the Lord and his spouse can quarrel fiercely. You understand? The more they quarrel, the more love there is. That's why the Lord intentionally creates such situations. This is described in the scriptures. This is truly how it happens. The Lord creates situations where his wife becomes angry with him, and they argue. And she argues in a very special way. I still need to find that text for you. It is also in the scriptures. There's a description in the Srimad Bhagavatam of how the Lord quarrels with his wife. It's described something like this. The Lord says to his wife, I have won you. This is a dialogue between Krishna and Rukmini. Krishna says, I have won you, but in reality the kings who sought you and whom I took you from, they are more worthy of you, because I am not showing you the proper attention, and so on. He started saying this to her. And he brought her to such a state that she started responding, perhaps I am not worthy of you. Perhaps I should be alone. So this is a real quarrel like what happens between a husband and wife, but it's described that this quarrel is based on loyalty. So their relationships are based on loyalty. And when the quarrel ends, he says, I said this to you on purpose, so that our love would be deeper. So when this quarrel happens, they feel immense happiness inside. Do you understand? Their love increases because of this quarrel. But when there is no sincerity in the relationship, love cannot grow from the quarrel. People drift apart. So if you decide to quarrel, be sure that you have enough love to have the right to do so. But if you don't have that right, then ask for forgiveness. What is detachment? Detachment is the replacement of an argument, the replacement of a quarrel. Understand? If you really decided to argue, be sure that you are so sincere with each other that your quarrel will bring happiness to both of you. You will do it out of love, not out of malice, because truly close people can only argue when they have enough love for it. So let's write the formula again. Love 2, conflict 1 equals an increase in love. There will be improvement in the relationship. But if there is 1 love and 2 conflicts, then the relationship will deteriorate. You see, there must always be more love than quarrels. Let's take another example. Let's say a fire is burning and the wind is blowing. Which should be more, the wind or the fire? Come on, Ben, speak up.
The fire, Dr. Torsunov.
Yes, the fire should be more. Then the fire will always flare up and grow stronger. But if the fire is less and the wind is more, then the fire goes out, you understand? This is very bad. This also applies to health. I am often asked, how many asceticism practices can I do? Your inner fire should always be greater than the wind from the outside. If you decide to run in the wind, then the strength of your subtle energy channels should be greater than the wind, and you must always weigh things. Look after yourself. You must proceed carefully. How do you determine how many healing practices you can do? You should interact very carefully with your body. By the way, Valencia, in the end, did you catch a cold from swimming? Everything turned out fine in the end?
Thank you, Dr. Torsunov. Everything is fine. I followed all your recommendations, and in the end, I went to the sauna. I realized that it's very important to warm the body afterwards. This is a very important point. And then I felt amazing. Thank you.
Well, that's important, yes. You must be very careful with your body. Don't give it excessive strain, and don't break your body. The same applies to relationships. You shouldn't put excessive strain on relationships because they will break. Then it is very hard to recover them. So keeping distance is also for not breaking the family. For example, if your loved one doesn't understand what you ask them, then distance yourself without any explanation. You can do it with prayer, distance, and kind actions in a kind way. You know how to detach in a way that the person will understand? Always increase kindness in detachment. For example, if you decide to detach from a loved one, take better care of them. You may want to be indifferent at that moment, but instead, you should care for them more. For example, if you've distanced yourself but you cook better for them, what will be the result of this kind of detachment? Let's say Michael did something wrong and you distanced yourself but you cooked him better meals. What will be the result of such detachment?
He will be grateful.
He will apologize. A person apologizes when they feel love. This balance between detachment and kindness should always be in favor of kindness. Then you will win. I mean, if a close person has done something wrong, and you show more kindness than detachment or punishment, they will apologize and feel guilty. But if you are just angry, no one will feel guilty, no one will be grateful, the conflict will just escalate, and that will lead to nothing good. Well, we've started to develop the topic little by little, touching on some interesting points. Tomorrow we will continue our conversation and explore more interesting aspects. For example, let's talk about when the Lord distances himself from us, and holy people and seniors do the same. What should we do in such cases? How should we live? When the Lord is educating us or when people educate us, what should we do? People also teach us how to behave. What should we do when we are being educated? Should we immediately repent or maybe wait? Tatiana, should we immediately repent when we are being educated or not? Answer. Tatiana from Samara knows.
It depends on who is educating. If it's a loved one, and they do it with love, then yes, immediately.
And if you don't understand that you're at fault, should you repent immediately?
You should go and think about your behavior, pray, feel it, and then see what the Lord says in your heart.
Yes, so repentance also has its time. Sometimes you can repent immediately. For example, if my wife is upset, I go and apologize right away. But I know I'm not at fault. And then, on the way, when I apologize for the third time, I realize what I'm actually at fault for. So it can be like that, but sometimes you don't fully understand if the punishment is right or not. Sometimes when a person punishes, they themselves are betraying. Punishment can sometimes be a form of betrayal, and sometimes not. You don't know from the very beginning whether you're being betrayed or not. Maybe they're crossing the line. It's unclear what to do in that case. Then you need a pause, you need to pray, and try to figure out the situation. If you haven't figured it out, then don't repent, because you might end up doing a disservice this way. There are situations when punishment is not justified and a person must defend their rights, their honor. It happens sometimes. It's called guilty without guilt. It means the person really didn't do anything bad. On the contrary, they're doing good, but they're misunderstood and punished. Sometimes due to slander, someone spread false accusations. Someone had malicious intent, and you defend your honor, not apologizing, but standing your ground. But then, when people realize that you're actually not guilty, you can apologize just in case. It happens, so always look at everything differently. Any questions about the lecture? Feel free to ask. Do you mind if we chat for 15 more minutes? I feel guilty for having to keep you longer. I don't know, I feel guilty, I came a bit late. Do you mind if we stay for 15 more minutes?
Please write your questions in the form. Also, you can send your questions in the chat.
You know, I used to come to you to give lectures. And not just come, but I lived in your city for 2 months. I used to give lectures for 2 months and gave 30 lectures in one city. I was there twice giving lectures for 2 months. But that was a long time ago, back in 2002, 2003. So that was 20 years ago.
Dr. Torsunov, please come again. We'd be so happy to have you.
But it depends on how many people you gather.
How many people do you need?
What, are you going to grab them all by the scruff of the neck, throw them in? How many should we throw in, Dr. Torsunov? Well, you have the Good People Club, right? Or are you organizing it online? Helen organized it online, right?
Maria.
Well, you need to feel out the situation, understand it somehow. Maybe you can send out a survey to gauge interest and find out how many people are interested. Then you can tell Helena how many people responded. You need to conduct a survey to see who finds it relevant. I'm ready to come if people show up, but coming if only 30 people show up, it's not worth it. In Russia, that's too few. In Helsinki, it's understandable. If 40 people show up, that's good. But in Russia, at least 150 people should come. Then it makes sense to plan a trip. All right?
We'll check the situation.
Well, at least there are 4 people already.
More. Ivanovo always has a lot of people involved. Most of them connect online. Ivanovo has a very active organizer.
I've been there, and I invested in the city. It's clear why people are so engaged and still listen. Well, we'll look into it.
Well, you didn't just stay in Ivanovo, but also lived in Samara for several months, teaching.
I actually lived in Samara. I didn't just stay there for a few months, I lived there. And I lived in Tolyatti too. There I also need to feel out the situation. Maybe I'll go to Tolyatti to give a lecture. Now I'm planning to go to Siberia. I have Siberia planned for the summer. That's Novosibirsk, Vladivostok, Khabarovsk. I also haven't forgotten about Ufa. Next questions.
I don't see any questions from the group. By the way, thank you so much. It's already almost 6 years since you've been conducting online seminars with us. And you always arrive on time.
A very good form of punishment, as a joke.
You always arrive on time. Today was just an exception.
Of course, always on time.
Well, we figured it was the sea.
I definitely had to go there, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to give the lecture. Imagine such a tough flight. I got up at 9 a.m. 20 days of traveling, exhausted, drained. The sea helped me recover so much, it's unreal. I feel like I was born again now. Even though it's still February here, the sea is around 17 degrees and the sun is very bright and good. I cleansed 1 energy layer with the sun and 5 energy layers with water. I stayed in water for 25 minutes. I feel really good, so I'm feeling great despite the flight and being so tired, thanks to the sea. That's great. So you said, you always arrive on time. We are so grateful for that. But I was late. This is called education. Excellent. I like it.
If I punish my husband more than necessary, can it be that fate will punish me afterward?
Of course, my dear, it will punish you. Don't worry, don't be anxious about it. Are you afraid it won't happen? If you punished him more than needed, then fate will definitely punish you, without a doubt. Don't worry about it. You can punish yourself before fate does. That's also a good option, by the way. If you feel like you punished him more than needed, punish yourself just in case.
Asceticism practices: fast for a day, pray for a day, run for 2. There you go. Everything's burned away. Anastasia asks, how will the loss of dignity from not distancing herself affect the fate of her children?
Anastasia, the one with Eugene, right? By the way, Anastasia and Eugene misbehaved in Krasnodar. They donated $500 to me through Max, and Max doesn't know them. If they had given it directly, I would never have taken their money. They misbehaved, they gave it through Max, and then ran away. Later I called them, but their phone was blocked. Maybe they changed their number, I don't know. In any case, they misbehaved, caused a lot of trouble. I'll be thinking about how to return the debts. Again, which Anastasia?
Anastasia Vysotskaya. She asks, if she didn't distance herself and lost her dignity in the process, how will this affect the fate of her children later on?
My dears, if you've done something wrong, don't think about the consequences. This is very wrong thinking. If you've been broken, if harsh fate acted upon you and you didn't distance yourself, you were humiliated, you broke down, recover. Don't think about the bad things that might come from it. These thoughts are even more destructive. Humiliation in itself means that a person starts to feel oppressed. The problem with this breaking or humiliation when a person is burned by betrayal is that they agreed to the betrayal, were burned by it, and accepted it. What is the problem there? The problem is that you start to perceive yourself and the situation very wrongly. You start dramatizing, exaggerating the situation. You begin to see only the negative. This is related to your question. Don't think about the negative consequences of your mistakes. You need to try to adjust your mindset positively, pray, fix everything. Once you realize you were wrong, do something good 10 times, and under no circumstances should you evaluate the negative consequences. Because that just exaggerates the situation and leads to even bigger problems. There will be no consequences for the children. Understand this, and that's all. It's in your power to fix everything. If you've already realized that you were too humiliated, then correct it. There will be no consequences. Consequences mean something else. In this world, there are no consequences for anything. If a person corrects their mistake, they fix all the consequences, and there are no consequences. Understand? We are eternal souls. We can fix everything. If a person sins, what consequences come from sin? Let's think about the consequences now. I've sinned. Now bad consequences will happen. How do I live on? This is absolutely wrong thinking, understand? You sinned, corrected. You corrected it, there are no consequences. For example, you're walking down the street, you've had an accident, it stinks, and you sit down thinking, I stink now, there are consequences, I'm stinky. Now I will be stinky for the rest of my life. Now everyone on earth will know I had an accident, and it will be all over the newspapers, on the radio and television. All the neighbors will know. Just quickly wash yourself, wash your clothes, and happily move on. That's it, you're completely clean and no longer soiled. This is the mindset. The memory will fade, everyone will forget. So never think about the consequences. Correct it, live joyfully, and that's it. This is the mindset you should have. Otherwise, everything will go wrong. The very question indicates wrong thinking, defilement, due to what happened. You need to recover. This is the problem with a broken sense of self-worth. It looks in the wrong direction. It perceives the world incorrectly. It continues to destroy itself. That's why you asked a good question, so I could correct you. There will be no consequences. Recover, become happy, joyful, self-sufficient, strong, and firm in spirit. Don't break down in the face of betrayal. Show your strength. Betrayal is a blow below the belt. Catch your breath and fight on. If fate has hit you, it means it wants to fight with you. Fight, never give in. Now in Ukraine, fate is fighting with people, it is destroying them. But don't give in, keep yourself together, try to be strong, resilient and joyful. Don't agree to the destruction of your life, never agree. Protect the men, be careful to ensure they are not taken to war. Don't send them there. By the way, I want to say to those from Russia, I absolutely know I have 100% understanding of the situation. I found out that summer military uniforms are now being actively produced in Russia, more than required. This means that somewhere in May, as I have seen and felt, there will be a new wave of mobilization in Russia. And you should be prepared for this. After that, think about how to protect men from all this. Whoever wants to go, let them go. That is their choice. Some may feel patriotically inclined. One thing should be understood: fate always gives you the opportunity to choose. I have just given you the information. From here on, it is your choice. You need to figure out how to live, what to think, and what to do. Because you should always keep the right to make your own choices. Don't wait until the last moment when fate chooses for you, especially if fate is harsh. If a person goes to war, they should go only with their own inner will. If that will is not there, it will not lead to anything good. Because violence that leads to death is unfavorable. A person should go if they truly want to. It is their choice. If they have another choice, they should take care of their life and figure out how to live from there. Sometimes there is no choice, then pray. If men are not allowed to leave the country, then pray. So these are the circumstances, my dear. We are in such a situation in Russia and Ukraine. So we need to be very careful with our men, pray, protect them, and try to ensure that everything is okay. Next question.
Kate, your question.
We will pray for the men, right, Kate, on Tuesday, so that the men stay alive.
The question is this: does distance imply a certain pause, if I understood correctly, when we step away from a person and immerse ourselves in nature and prayer? So, we are putting the relationship with the person on pause during this time. But we want to continue developing it, not waste time.
You misunderstood. Distance is not a pause. Distance simply means reducing the emotional factor in the relationships. Love is always transmitted through emotions. Distance means reducing the amount of love in the relationships in order to preserve it. I repeat, the reason for reducing the amount of love is that people, for some reason, cannot make this exchange deep. Because they may not have love, for example, or because they have closed themselves off. Love doesn't come through pride. You try to invest with the amount of love you want to give, but it ends in destruction, because there is no exchange. And then you give the amount of love that can be given. That is distance. You don't stop giving it completely. You just give as much as you can. Distance also means there are verbal relationships, verbal exchanges. The more verbal relationships there are, the less distance there is. It always decreases when we talk, you understand? No distance means a close conversation. How can you tell there is no distance? People are talking very closely, trustfully. There is no distance. When there is no conversation at all, only service and care remain. That is absolute distance. You see, distance does not mean leaving. There is also the concept of intimate relationships. So distance always means there are no intimate relationships, because intimate relationships without love destroy a person. They are destructive and dangerous. All sexual disorders, infertility, prostate cancer, uterine cancer, all of this arises from intimate relationships without love. It is a dangerous thing. Abortions cause it too, but relationships without love also cause it. And as soon as you feel there is no love, you should immediately stop having intimate relationships. Therefore, distance is the limitation of relationships, not their termination. Do not take this literally like something harsh. Today we talked about different stages of distance. For example, less emotions, even less emotions. Do not clarify anything, do not tell the truth, do not educate. Then the next stage is when it's really tough. Do not speak, just send videos. Send kind messages to your loved one through messengers. If videos are already too difficult, just send text messages. If text messages are hard, then just send emojis, those little faces, and nothing more. This is called distance. That is less emotion and closeness in the relationships, but the relationships continue. Sometimes it's okay to take a break altogether for a while, but that's the extreme case. This is mainly when it smells like betrayal. I gave one example in the lecture. It's when a guy takes advantage of a woman's loving energy, builds a close relationship with her, but does not take responsibility. Then the woman also shuts off her love faucet, and that's it. This is also a kind of distance, a punishing one, also good.
They're asking, how should I properly distance myself at work from colleagues, from my boss? There are constantly difficult relationships, constant quarrels, and I have a completely different worldview, nature.
You see, this is very important. It's a complicated topic, distancing at work. Work is always made up of 3 layers. There is degradation work. If you're in a degradation environment, you always have to distance yourself. It's like dirt, like a swamp. You always have to distance yourself there. By the way, it's the same in personal life. When a husband or wife is in the mode of degradation, it's constant betrayal. A degradation means constant debauchery, drunkenness, rudeness, profanity, deceit. So betrayal doesn't stop at all, and that's why distance is always necessary. There are no close relationships. You cook, wash, clean, pray, but don't interact closely. When people live in passion mode, it means that love is in second place. Spiritual life is in second place. This is also love, by the way. Love for nature, people, and God. This is also love. But in the first place, we have material goods. We work hard. We earn money, build formal relationships with each other. For us, love is sex in the family. These are passionate relationships. In this case, it's simply impossible to communicate very deeply with a person. It's simply impossible. That's why some distance is inevitable here. When there's not enough spiritual development in the family, you need to invest in that development. You need to gradually bring loved ones into the mode of goodness. And due to this distance, you can't talk to them about God, about lectures, about proper nutrition. You can't talk to your loved ones because they don't want to hear it, they don't want to understand. Then invest through prayer. Secretly feed them with blessed food. Pray for them secretly. This is also distance. So, distance can also be because of the wrong environment you are in, whether it's in the family or at work. What you described at work is a degradation environment. Everyone is fighting with each other. In that case, you just keep kindness in your heart for everyone, but don't get close to anyone. Do your work, carry out your duties, and look for another job. But maybe you don't need to, I don't know. There are various situations. Just keep kindness in your heart. And externally, just do your job. I gave an example of a young man who works on a yacht. So on the outside, doing his duties, and in his heart, kindness towards people. Don't get close to people if they live incorrectly. You can only get close to those who are in pure goodness. Next question.
Several women have asked about distancing from a husband who drinks.
He is in degradation, so we talk politely. Try to keep a bit of distance with your heart because you burn out. So the person betrays you and you burn out. You need to preserve yourself. So here it's important not to distance, not to educate, but to preserve yourself. The first thing you need to do when living with a person in degradation and there's constant defilement is to fill yourself strongly with nature, good people, and God. And see if you can live together at all, because there are different levels of drinking. Sometimes a person just drinks on holidays, sometimes they drink heavily, or they don't sober up at all. If the level of drinking is so high that you cannot live with the person, then you should live at a distance. How do you determine that it's impossible? You can't recover. You're constantly losing energy, you've gone into depletion. That means you have no strength, no happiness in life, no will, and your prayer is weakening. Then that's it. You are weaker than this possibility, weaker than fate. That means you need to live separately. If they drink sometimes, when they do, you should lock yourself in your room. Don't interact with them, so they can't come to you. So always betrayal means punishment, a strict style. This is real distancing now. If they drink, you can go to your mom's for a while or lock yourself in your room. Never hesitate to be strict in response to betrayal. A small betrayal should be strongly punished. Then there will be no big betrayals. So the degree of punishment should be adequate. If they drink, that's it. You don't talk to them for 2 days. The degree of punishment must be appropriate, but you still fulfill your duties while living together. And even if you don't live together, there are still some duties. So it depends. It depends on how much he drinks. It's always different. But definitely, if a person looks at other women, tries to flirt, steals, behaves dishonestly with money, then there must be distance, a firm position. This is already approaching the violation of Moses' commandments, and here it should be more unyielding. This means a pre-war situation in the family. You must be very alert, very attentive. And if harsh fate begins, always try to preserve yourself. This is the most important thing. It's not about resolving things with the loved one, but about preserving yourself. That's why distance. Distance to restore yourself, not to punish him. Distance to restore yourself. To preserve yourself, because if a person doesn't preserve themselves, they can't live normally, love, or work. It's simply useless. It's like a plant. And harsh fate breaks people. Its goal is to break people. So the main thing is to preserve yourself, not allow anyone to abuse you. And accordingly, if harsh fate affects friends, for example, our friends from Ukraine who are listening to the lectures, we need to help them too, give them strength, provide support, strength, protection, and care to make it easier for them. So that Elise doesn't feel sad, so that Sarah doesn't feel sad, so that they are happy, we must invest in their hearts. When harsh fate strikes, true friends always help. They always try to be close, to help, to give strength, so that everything is fine. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.